Assalamu alaikum, welcome everybody. I'm Omar Salman, and today we will talk about how you should choose your creative partner with Mr. Imam Alwaery. He is founder and director of I4DEZ Creative Service Agency, an agency concerned with developing strategies and identity for Middle Eastern products targeting the East Asian market, and founder of Design MWH, an initiative aimed at helping people in the creative field to increase their profitability by providing greater value for their clients. And also creative worker for more than 18 years and founder and partner of several commercial projects. Welcome, Mr. Imam, on the show.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you for having me with you.
You're welcome. Mr. Imam, can you tell us how can the organization effectively choose their creative partner?
First of all, you mentioned something is like in the title or in the beginning, you mentioned that how to choose your creative partner.
Yeah, sure.
First of all, I believe it's not a partnership. It's a service provider to a client. Partnership means there is an effect for both partner, either success or failure. So if the service achieved the goal that required of it, there should be compensation for the graphic designer or the creative service provider. And if it failed, that means it should affect their fees as well. So it's not a partnership, uh, even though everyone is using the partnership phrase as a marketing
Yeah.
phrase, just to entice a client that okay, I'm invested in your success. But the main issue here is not I'm invested in your success. It's I will not be affected by your failure. So actually, it's not a partnership. It's an agreement. It's a service provider to a customer. It can be elevated into an advisor level. So the creative partner or the creative provider will be an advisor for the client, but that's maybe a topic for a different meeting. But first, let's just put the partnership thing aside.
Okay.
It's not truly a partnership. Second, it's not a choice by one side to another. It's a mutual agreement. So the client should choose to work with a graphic designer, and the graphic designer should choose to work with the client. So,
Absolutely.
uh, so the fit should be agreed for both sides. This is the proper client for me as a graphic designer, and the client should agree that okay, this is the proper service provider for me. So it should be let's say judged by both sides. It's not like
Hmm.
a selection activity, one person or one side trying to select the best for them. It's a selection for that should benefit both parties financially and let's say professionally.
I see.
So it's a mutual agreement selection. I
Okay.
think the first thing that a client should consider, we'll talk about the client perspective here. I think the first thing that the client should consider, because there is plenty of service providers, and the client as a person inexperienced in graphic design wouldn't be able to judge what is best for him or what's the proper choice for him. So
Absolutely.
maybe the best practice at the beginning for the client is to determine before starting looking for a service provider, a graphic designer, or an agency. The first thing they should do is determining uh, the budget that they are willing to invest into the service, the timeline that they need the service to be, let's say, delivered, and what's the result, what's the outcome that they are trying to achieve with this collaboration with the service provider. This is this should start before going into the selection or the research phase. This is just to make sure that the client is anchored into something that if got distracted by the many choices in the market, he will have something firm to go back to and to judge based on it. So as a first step, I would advise to write down these, let's say, three criterias. What's the budget that you're willing to invest? What's the timeline that you need the service to be finalized? And what's the outcome that you're trying to achieve with this, let's say, with this service provider?
Nice. Often decision maker choose the designer or agency based on visual thing. Do you think that is right way?
I think because the client is not really aware of the process that leads to the visual outcome. He might use the visual outcome as an indicator of the quality of the work, but usually the best indicator is this service provider sharing their thought process to reach this outcome. How did they reach this outcome? Okay, the visual is important, but it's not the most important part of the collaboration. You should find a
Absolutely.
partner that you can trust their process. They have a process. They are sharing their process, and how did they understand, let's say, the needs of the customers. How did they find the problem, the core problem that the client is trying to resolve, and what's their thought process in suggesting or trying to resolve this problem, and how did they implement this solution. So these, let's say, these steps, uh, uh, if shared by the service provider, will give a better guidance for the client, which is the better suited service provider that they can collaborate with.
Great. Can the client know the quality of service provider through the question asked to him?
I think the indicator of the quality of the question is the question made the client or the person who's trying to answer the questions. Did these questions make them rethink something that they believe, or did these questions made them discover something that they weren't aware of? So I think this is, let's say, an indication of the quality of the questions. Did they help me understand my problem better, me as a client? And you as a graphic designer, did your question help me to understand my problem better? Did it, let's say, improve my perspective on the problem, provided me more insights on my problem that I'm truly trying to resolve, made me think deeper of my problem? It's not just resolving the, let's say, the surface level problem. No, but it helped me to go deeper and try to solve the core problem that is causing all the surface or the surface small waves. What is the core problem that is trying to be resolved or should be resolved? So I think the indicator for the quality of the questions is, did they make me rethink my beliefs? Did they make me see things in a different light or from a different perspective? But mostly, I believe that this kind of interaction, uh, uh, I'm not sure if it's the best way to indicate the best partner, because when you are reaching this point, you already decided. You're not trying to make someone diagnose your problem and figure out your core problem before deciding them. So I think this is a stage after deciding, am I gonna work with you or not? Uh, so I don't think it would be helpful in the selection phase. This is next stage at the beginning of the collaboration, which won't help to indicate the quality of the service. So I think this is something that should be considered in the, uh, let's say that, okay, let's say that I have multiple choices or multiple service providers that I'm considering. Maybe I can agree with them, me as a client, agree with them on a discovery phase. Okay, I will budget portion of my total budget that I'm trying to figure out to resolve my problem. I will dedicate a small portion of that budget for the let's say the discovery phase. and I will judge the interaction, or the, let's say, the quality of the interaction with the service providers or the graphic designers based on the discovery phase. So maybe this is something that can be, let's say, gambled, or maybe something that the client is willing to risk just to make sure that he's working with the best partner or with the best service provider.
Great. What are the skills that creative service provider should have? Yeah,
In general, I think creative service provider should, let's say, build four categories of skills. First is the technical skills, the tools that they are using to produce the creative work, programs, art supplies, photography, whatever the tools that they are using. The second is communication skills, communication internally, like, let's say, in an organization or with the team that you're working with, or externally with other suppliers that you can incorporate in your project, or with the client and the client, let's say, representatives that they are in charge of communicating with you regarding any project. So the first is technical, second is communication, the third is analytical skills, uh, the ability to collect information, collect data, and analyze it, and try to find the patterns that might be repeated with different clients. So it will help you to build deeper expertise in your field or with the service that you're trying to provide. The fourth skill, or the fourth set of skills, is management or resources management. How to manage your time, how to manage your team, how to manage your financials, how to manage the relationship, the communication. So resources management is the first set of skills that a graphic designer should try to develop. These skills are not something that anyone can learn. Like, it's not a book skill, like something that you can learn in university or you can learn in a book or in a course. These skills are, let's say, communication and management. These skills are built by uh, doing, by experience. So these skills, you might learn the basics in a book or in a course or in a boot camp, but to really develop and be able to utilize these skills, you should uh, put it to work. You should uh, uh, exercise and build that muscle to develop these skills. Maybe the technical skills is something that you can build in an isolation of, let's say, the outward. You can learn your programs, you can learn your tools by yourself, but other skills requires you interaction with others and put it into practice.
great.
And I think one of the main skills that the client should consider while trying to select a service provider, a graphic designer, is how do they communicate? Their communication, the communication, either the method or the clarity of their communication, because you want someone who can understand you
Absolutely.
and someone who can explain things clearly to you. So most clients, they might look for a graphic designer with one project in mind, but usually that will extend into further future projects. So you want to find someone that you really can communicate clearly with, and they can understand you clearly, and they can uh, present themselves and their ideas and their perspective clearly. So I think clients should consider or pay attention to the communication method, communication style, and the personality of the service provider, because the aim is not a one-time collaboration. It's most of the time it's a long-term collaboration with future projects to come.
Great. Does the number of years of experience reflect the quality of service provider? Yes.
How many years of experience the graphic designer have. Most of the time, it doesn't really reflects the quality of the service they provide. Uh, it might be an indication, but it's not a real reflection of the quality of the service that they can provide. But you can use it as a filtering method as a client. Most of the clients, because most of clients, they are trying to minimize their risk. They want as safe as possible collaboration. So they will use the experience, the years of experience, or the size of the agency as an indication of how risky the collaboration would be. But most of the time, it's just a number. It might not be a real indication of the fruitfulness of the collaboration.
Thank you, Mr. Imam, for your presence, and thank you for your information. And this is the end of video. I hope you benefit from this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. مع السلامة.